Since 2005, oil production has been running, on average, around 74 million barrels per day, with new production flows only just offsetting the depletion and reduced flows from current wells. At some point, which may be very near, the relatively small flows from the new production fields will not be able to offset the decline of the older much more generous fields, and the daily flow of oil will start to decline. Global oil production has become much like Lewis Carroll's Red Queen, running faster just to stay in the same place. Even now, the current production plateau may be masking a decline in the net energy provided from oil production, as increases in oil volumes from tar sands, deep water, and shale just balance the depletion of higher net energy conventional oil fields. We may be getting the barrels, but we are not getting the same amount of net energy they used to deliver. Hello my friends, welcome to my Energy Economist channel. We will talk about crude oil production in this video. Stay with me, then. Shale oil has been touted as a huge new source of energy, facilitating energy independence for the USA. It has allowed the U.S. oil production to increase, but at the global level, has only aided in offsetting the depletion of current wells. The long-term viability of shale oil production has been questioned given the relatively low per-well production and very high depletion rates. Some researchers have also pointed to the relatively small sweet spots within shale oil areas, with well productivity falling off rapidly with an increase in the distance from the sweet spot. As oil exporting nations increase in population and become wealthier, domestic demand for oil grows and the balance left for export falls. Adding to the problem, there is a tendency for such nations to keep energy costs low to either support the local economy or buttress unelected elites, as in many of the Middle East countries. This only increases the amount of their energy production used domestically, as low prices foster demand and inefficient usage. Thus, the peak of internationally available oil will happen sooner than the global production peak. The fall from that peak may be accelerated as the oil exporters may decide to reduce production of their scarce and increasingly valuable oil resources to stretch out the period of required transition. Already, Indonesia and Egypt have moved from being oil exporters to oil importers, and Mexico, Malaysia, and Iran are seeing oil exports fall faster than their overall production levels. This is not good news for countries that rely heavily on oil imports like the USA, China, Japan, and Europe. To make things even worse, an increasing amount of world oil exports are coming from countries which are less stable than the more established suppliers. Some very interesting countries have been added to the list of significant oil exporters, such as Nigeria, Angola, and Algeria. When you think of these three countries, what kind of images come to mind? Images of peace, lawfulness, honesty, and happiness? Or do images of scary people with guns, civil wars, political activists being executed, or widespread graft and outright theft by the powerful come to mind? Nigeria, with a production of over 2 million barrels per day, is now the 8th biggest oil exporter in the world compared with places like the USA and Europe. Close behind in oil production volume is the country of Angola. Older readers may remember the initials MPLA, Movement for the Liberation of Angola, FNLA, National Front for the Liberation of Angola, and UNITA, National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, three groups that fought a very nasty civil war in Angola over nearly 3 decades. Not far behind is Algeria, which only lifted a state of emergency in 2011 and where security is so lacking that at the beginning of 2013 a natural gas facility was attacked and several foreign workers killed. Another problematic country is Libya, where a stable dictatorship has been replaced by tribal warfare and ongoing disruptions to oil exports. So, if the inhabitants of the oil exporting countries are not consuming more of their oil themselves, their exports may be affected by some civil disturbance which shuts down oil production. Perhaps that is why the U.S. Armed Forces have formed an African command and the European countries were so quick to engage with the Arab Spring. At least, increasingly unstable Egypt is no longer a worry, it has become a net oil importer. Syria is not far behind, with its oil exports declining well before the current civil war started. Global crude oil production from 1989 to the end of 2014 is shown in the figure. World oil output reached about 89 million barrels per day in 2014, an increase of 2.1 million barrels per day compared to 2013, all of which was in non-OPEC countries. U.S. output grew by 1.6 million barrels per day, its largest increase on record. This is due to supplies of shale oil and will continue to increase over the next decade. Nonetheless, as depicted in the figure, 60% of total global oil was produced by NOCs in 2015. The figure presents the worldwide oil consumption trend for the period 1989 to 2014. In 2014, global consumption was around 92 million barrels per day, an increase of 840,000 barrels per day compared to 2013, with the emerging economies accounting for all of the net increase. If you want to learn more about crude oil production, you could do so in my book, Economics of Oil and Gas Production, which is published on Amazon. Check it out at the link in the description. Please take a second to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and do not forget to also hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching and goodbye.